Coming up this week on the Course of Life podcast, we've got a new hottest golfer in the world heading into the Open Championship week at St. Andrews, plus a celebrity-filled golf weekend. Had a fun finish. And it's the finale of our book club chat on that new scandalous Phil Mickelson book written by Alan Shipnuck. We get into the finish and our final thoughts. We're tuned into Comic-Con adventures and Sailor Moon. And this week's guest, we got our longtime friend, Dr. Bern from the Golf Heritage Society on, talking all things the history of the game. And of course, St. Andrews, the site of this week's Open Championship. And it's a 19th hole visit and shishito peppers when we always end with food. All of it brought to you by our friends at Desert Fox Golf. They make the phone caddy. Check out desertfoxgolf.com right now. When you type that in, you're going to take a look at the phone caddy, and it's a device, if you haven't seen it before, that you need in your life if you're a golfer. It's the hot summer right now, Mike. We're talking like 105 degrees every single day. No one's walking. It's all cart weather for the next few months here in Texas. So keep your phone safe and where it needs to be at all times with the Desert Fox phone caddy. Check out their website again, desertfoxgolf.com. Our promo code is Course of Life to save 10% off your phone caddy. Again, promo code Course of Life to save 10% off your phone caddy. It does everything you need for your phone all round long at desertfoxgolf.com.
Hello, interwebs, and welcome to Course of Life, part of the Morning Read Podcast Network. We are proud to be presented by our friends at Desert Fox Golf, Swing Strong, and D3 Golf. I'm Michael, he's Alex. And Alex, it was the warm-up to the Open Championship this weekend. So they were at the Renaissance Club for the Genesis Scottish Open. And the hottest player in golf right now, which is Xander Schauffele.
Undoubtedly. Yeah,
gets his second win in 3 weeks. And, of course, he also won the Pro-Am early in the week.
Yes, as well. He's on fire. And this is interesting. I think this kind of snuck up on us a little bit. I think you and I were on a little kick maybe a few months ago, picking Schauffele here and there on our Twitter picks weekly. We kind of backed off him in recent times because we just hadn't seen a ton. And then lo and behold, he wins the team competition with Patrick Cantlay in Zurich at New Orleans. And then here he's got 2 out of 3 with the Travelers and now the Scottish Open. That's 3 wins in just over 60 days for the Olympic gold medalist last year in Tokyo. So yeah, he's officially the hottest golfer in the world. I felt like it all kind of snuck up on me real fast.
Yeah, not quite as many wins in as few a days as we saw earlier in the year.
Yeah, not quite Scheffler pace now.
No, not quite Scheffler pace, but that begs the question: who's the hottest golfer? I mean, for the year, I think we can still say it's definitely Scotty. But we were talking briefly before we started recording here that he's certainly on a roll, and now it's like, can he complete this weekend with a major at the Open?
This is that same crescendo because we had Scheffler rolling, winning in the Waste Management Open, then winning again. Then I watched him get done the match play. And at that point, we're all just like, okay, like he's the guy. He's number 1 in the world. Now prove it in a major championship setting. And he did it 2 weeks later. So Schauffele is seemingly in that exact same spot. Again, we're waiting on his major moment. So we'll see if it comes this week at St. Andrews. What a great spot it would be, right?
Yeah. And I think it's going to be hard for neither of us to not put $1 down on him. Your picks, absolutely atrocious this week.
Bad.
Just bad. Who did you have again? I don't even know. Did they make the cut? I don't even know who you had.
Yeah, exactly. Who did I have? It doesn't even matter. Scheffler, Zalatoris, and a couple others all missed the cut. I had Alex Noren and Ryan Fox make the cut and not even play that well. I'm giving myself a D-. The only thing preventing me from failure is I had a couple guys make the cut and play decent. But other than that, a very poor week for me. You did have Jordan Spieth lurking a little bit in your pick. So that's interesting there. A week
Tommy
before
Fleetwood.
Jordan Spieth lurking, decent week. What are your thoughts on that heading into St. Andrews?
Yeah, Jordan Spieth did well. I had Tommy Fleetwood as well, who had a very good end to his week as well. Both of them finished in the top 10. Fleetwood had a great finish to his round with a 67, so he was able to get himself up into a tie for 4th. I mean, I feel like we've been saying it maybe for a while. Jordan is back, but is he really back? And maybe he's really gunning to take another major championship this year and do it at St. Andrews. So.
Yeah, it's interesting with the Open Championship because while it obviously does require a strong mind, perseverance, and the right golf shots, there is also a little bit of odd, funny luck to it. There's a lot of uneven lies. You don't know if you're in the heather or if you get a clean lie in the rough or if you're in the fairway. Your ball can roll into a bunker at any moment. You kind of have to play the bounces and rolls, the courses, and Spieth's game kind of vibes with that. Maybe that's a precursor to what happens next week, but it's exciting. We got all the buzz around St. Andrews. Obviously, Tiger has already landed on campus there in the old course. He played some links golf with Rory at Ballybunion and got practice rounds in at the old course, just with the people walking with their picnic baskets this past weekend, just enjoying the life there in the town. So a nice scene being set heading into championship week.
It is indeed. There also was some fun all the way over in Lake Tahoe here stateside, where a lot of our past guests and friends of the show got to have some fun with. So
they were there. I mean, I don't know if you saw any of this, but shout out to the Topgolf team for putting together an awesome group of people that were out on Tahoe for the American Century Championship. That's that annual celebrity get-together golf tournament. That's always an awesome take, and it finished with a Tony Romo win in the playoff. But yeah, I saw Alyssa Kesar out there, new lady golfer. Saw Tisha Aylin, saw Coach Rusty, who we just had on the show recently. So check the archives for any of those great interviews. But always a nice setting there on Tahoe, Mike. One of the unique venues where you can play a golf course, you can have the waves crashing in and the beach to your right, and then in the distance, you can have the mountains that are snow-capped on top. A very unique setting in the game.
Yeah, it is indeed. It's beautiful out there. One of these days, I'll go out there.
I mean, hey, top golf team. Yeah, well, we're ready for the invite next year. I'm just throwing that out there. We'll gladly attend and interview anyone and everyone there for you. Okay, we'll take that bullet for you guys.
We will. All right, let's turn our attention now, because that's what everyone really comes here to listen to is about the 150th delayed by a year Open Championship.
The Open. Yes, the Open. And not just any Open. This has a fantastic rotation of links golf courses. At this point, it's somewhere in the range of like 5 to 10 different ones that they work through. But this one comes around every 5. It's the Open at St. Andrews, the old course, the home of golf. Put any superlatives or adjectives on it. This one just kind of feels like it means a little bit more,
Yeah, it really does. And St. Andrews, of course, the home of golf. It's always just this beautiful look at a golf course that is simple and yet probably one of the most terrifying, because you don't know what's going to happen with the weather, and that will change this course dramatically, is what that wind does throughout the week. So Tiger is going to be in the field, like we said.
Rory McIlroy.
Okay. Rory is the favorite, like we said. Xander Schauffele.
Not the
2
favorite
wins in the last 3 weeks. Surprisingly, not the favorite. I wonder if those odds are going to change after today. Mm-hmm. Scotty Scheffler looking for another major this year as well. He's up there toward the top. John Rahm. What do we think here? Early favorites. If you got to put a dollar down, are you going to put it on live golfer Dustin Johnson, or are you going to put it on?
Oh man. Wouldn't that wreck the system if Dustin Johnson takes home this trophy at the home of golf of all places, Man. Oh, God, what a storyline that would be. Aside from that, interesting to see where my dollars are going to go. Again, our weekly picks are at Twitter Wednesday evenings. I'm at Course of Life 1. You're at MWRINC. You've had more winners than I have, admittedly, in 2022. I've been circling the wagons recently, but after a poor Scottish Open week, I'm due for some fireworks. The guy who I was leaning on this past week, who had another miscut performance, who I feel like is getting overshadowed, is the defending Open champion, Colin Morikawa. I think we definitely have to continue looking at him. He says he's found the fades again that have been eluding him the last few months. He's been hitting a draw, which has been bothering him. It's been inconsistent. So if he's finding that ball flight correctly, I like his chances. Another guy that I'm looking at is Cameron Smith. He's been in a little bit of a lull in the last couple months, but he's going off at decent odds, and he's a great putter. But these European guys, Mike, it's over there on the other side of the pond. You just never know. There's always a few DP World Tour guys that sneak up and have great showings in a week like this, especially at the home course. So lots of variables at play coming up.
Yeah, we know that there's going to be some guy we've never heard of leading at least a couple points on Thursday. That's a guarantee. But my other question, and we kind of hinted at here, so I'm curious, between Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, and Bryson, who has the best chance of those three live golfers to win this tournament?
I'm going to say based on recent form, DJ, but I will say there is an amount of openness on the old course that does actually allow for Bryson to just spray it. And while obviously there is the stereotypical heather grass and the tall grass that can chew your ball up in certain spots of the course, fairways are wide in spots, and length is definitely rewarded on a course that hasn't been lengthened a whole lot compared to other classic venues. So I'll say DJ by a short nod on lowest odds and best chance to contend, but in a weird way, as I say this, I think a dollar might go towards Bryson this weekend, maybe 50 or 60 to 1. So we'll have to check the final card Wednesday evening, but an interesting thought piece for sure on the Live Tour golfers playing this week.
Yep. Also this week, little known tournament led, at least in golf Twitter circles that we're a big part of. We know this is really Mark Baldwin week for the Barracuda.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. Reno Tahoe, we're staying there. That beautiful part of the country. The Barracuda Championship, basically it's a split event for the guys who do not qualify for the Open. And this was a fantastic opportunity for our friend of the show, Mark Baldwin, and obviously Ryan French caddying on the bag, Mr. Monday Q Info himself. So the dynamic duo will be back at it this week. So expect lots of good CUDA championship content. Yeah, Mark made the cut last year. Mike, I think he finished inside the top 35 or 40. So we're looking to improve on that finish. Again, if you follow Mark on Twitter, you know we're just paying for diapers and just kid stuff at this point. You know, that we got a grown boy that we got to feed. So that's really Mark's main goal right now. So get on board the Mark Baldwin bandwagon if you haven't already.
Yes, it is a lot of fun. We'll keep an eye on that and update that as the top story on next week's episode, because we know that's what's most important.
Yeah, everyone wants to know what Mark does in the Barracuda besides anything else in the world of golf this week. That's right.
Yes. All right, let's finish up our book club pick. Of course, we are still, for the last time now, finishing up Phil, the rip-roaring unauthorized biography of golf's most colorful superstar by Alan Shipnuck. We got the final 3 chapters here, and we kind of opened 17 there with that huge news that rocked the world about Bones and Phil breaking up. This was like those big Hollywood marriages that you thought would never end coming to an end. It's like one of those. We thought this would never end, and it did.
Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston. How could it end? It's unbelievable. I just didn't see it coming. Yeah, what an unbelievable relationship for over a quarter of a century, I believe. Phil and Bones went back.
Yeah, 25 years.
We learned that I think it was Bones that did the breaking up actually with Phil. It was not as consensual or mutual as they would like you to think, but of course Phil's PR team spun it accordingly. A funny little note from that breakup is we found out Bones never got the major championship winning flags, which is customarily what the caddy gets. They don't get a whole lot in terms of the prize money, but they do get the flag, and it was funny the way those eventually got handed to him as well.
Yeah, and just this sense that it was gonna all the flags originally went to Nunu for Phil, which made sense. But after Nunu's passing, Bones thought that maybe he would start getting some flags, and he didn't.
Yeah.
So,
and then one day they eventually got a few of them, and they were signed with gigantically large Phil Mickelson lettering, as to say, these were all done by me. Here are your flags. I don't want to give these to you, so here's my name in very big letters. Nice job, Phil.
Yes. And then, of course, that I think really kickstarted the Phil Mickelson revolution and kind of rejuvenation and change in his focus and his style, or at least we got to see more of him, because then he got on Twitter, he started hawking coffee, he just started going after distance, there's all this stuff. I mean, so this was the beginning of the Phil that would go on to do great and terrible things.
Yeah, I mean, this is, for lack of a better term, this is the course of life era Phil that
Yes.
we know here on the podcast. In the last 3 or 4 years, he has been a electric personality on social media. I think of the rides down Magnolia Lane, filming himself, telling us the bombs he's going to hit. You know, the ridiculous things he said on camera, the fireside chats. Little do we forget. You know, there's a lot of little mementos from Phil on social media in the last few years, and I think those have done things in the coffee and whatnot. They've done things to maybe just cast a little bit of a brighter light on Phil overall. I don't think it's hid all the scandal and controversy in his life, but it's patched it up in small pieces and given us a little bit of a laugh on the way, right?
Yeah, indeed. And then that laugh subsided in 2021 when he did the unthinkable. And it's, you know, we talked about this a lot last year when Phil won the PGA.
He did.
Just shy
in case you forgot,
51st,
yes, he did.
Just shy of his 54th birthday. I mean, we talked about it then, about trying to put this win in like the pantheon of the top 3 wins of all time. Was this better than Tiger winning on leg? Was this better than Tiger coming back and winning the Masters again like he did? Was, you know, and it certainly is one of those achievements that I don't think we're ever going to see someone do again. And it was really cemented in the book just by how amazing it really was.
Yeah, and for all we knock on Phil, and we'll continue to knock on Phil, we're always going to tout those moments. And that was a crazy, awesome moment last year when he got that done at the age he did, hitting it the way he did, head-to-head against Brooks Koepka on just a bear of a course, Mike. This wasn't your average, you know, shoot 15 under and win a major PGA Championship. This was a windy oceanside Kiowa playing at full distance, and his game was on full display. So absolutely, it was cool walking through all those moments and how he outgunned Brooks, everything from the first tee shot to the last putt, and the crowd roaring around him. Cool memories in the Phil era.
Yeah. And then things started to unravel right afterwards. And that's, you know, now we get to current day Phil, really, with that scandal that popped up in Detroit when he went to the Rocket Mortgage Classic.
Yep.
And then saying he wasn't going to go back, and then saying he would, and then skipping out on his home tournament. And,
it was the waste management. And then this year we saw it at Pebble Beach twice, 2 years running now, skipping out and saying, oh, no, I'm going to go head over to Saudi Arabia and take that gigantic check. And that was the first moment, you know, if you want to rewind the podcast chronicles to when we kind of did the thinking man emoji. And we're like, so Phil is not playing waste management in front of his favorite crowd on the tour, and he's going to fly halfway across the world for a gigantic check. I wonder what's to come of that. And there was a lot to come of that in the future.
Yeah, there was indeed. And it all the whole build up to him jumping ship to the LIV and everything. And Shipnuck just kind of muses about, is there something else going on that he didn't uncover for this book that really motivated Phil to take this money and go do this? And
yeah, I mean, the dots were connected with all of the scandal, the financial trouble, the insider trading, the gambling debts. The smoking gun as to exactly what Phil needed financially, or, you know, with the speculation we've had is Phil needed $100 million instantly and got it. That's the thing we've thrown around that's completely unsubstantiated. Of course, we don't see that that's available, but if you connect the dots, you can understand why he may have needed a large sum of money, and that was kind of what kind of brought everything to a head, and now we can get in kind of that famous interaction that Shipnuck had with Phil, which kind of blew everything off the top and forced this book down the throat everywhere.
Yeah, you know, that was we covered that when that broke about Phil's comments that he made to Shipnuck about the Saudis and how they're scary mofos, and he was very aware that this was sport washing, but he wanted to do it to make golf better and change how the PGA Tour treated the golfers. And the PGA Tour has done a lot to change since all that started. But I guess still enough. So Phil still needed $100 million.
Yeah, it's funny. We keep saying this, you know, that the changes are being made. And lo and behold, the guys that were yelling the loudest about the changes aren't going to benefit from them. Isn't that kind of ironic there?
Yep.
The way everything's breaking right now. So, yeah, and Phil was the leader in that clubhouse, trying to get those changes to be made. So it was a fascinating end to kind of where things sit now, and that was essentially a wrap on chapter 19 of the book. I'll give you a quick final thought and say that I appreciated the candor and the tone that Shipnuck took throughout the book. It was a controversial book because he had to write about controversial things, but I think he was surprisingly fair and down the middle. You know, maybe there were 10 or 15 real hardcore nuggets that took away as anti-Phil, but there were 8 to 10 at least that really painted Phil in a nice light. So I appreciated seeing that throughout the read.
Yeah, you know, he said at one point in here, I think it was in chapter 19. I'm trying to see if I can even find the quote about Phil. And I think it might have been Bones who said it, like, no one will know Phil.
He's a mystery. I've known him for 25 years and he's a mystery.
Yeah, he's one of the most enigmatic characters on tour. And it certainly, Shipnuck certainly painted that picture of this guy that I really don't know what to think of him. I think I certainly, and I think a lot of this out of the Live Tour mess, you know, I came to think less of Phil over the last year, which is disappointing because, you know, he was my favorite golfer on tour.
No, we don't want to. It's not something you want to feel.
Yeah. But it was, I do want to ask the question as well, finishing up final thoughts here from all of this, is that Shipnuck lists his top 12 golfers. Really top 12.
I did see that list. Yeah, refresh me on that list.
Yeah.
I thought it looked decent, but where did you see a flaw or something? What?
Jack and Tiger tied for number 1. I think
1A, 1B. Mm-hmm.
Phil just outside of the top 10 at number 11.
Yeah.
Who
are you moving him ahead of, basically?
That's where he is. I don't know. I look at his list and it's difficult.
I have a personal vendetta against Tom Watson, so I'll move him ahead of Tom Watson if he'd like
so
to.
You'll put him in the top 10.
Yeah,
you'll put him ahead of Tom Watson, number 10. So you'd put him right underneath Arnold Palmer.
I would. Yeah, I don't know if I can go above Arnie. It's a tough line there.
You know, it was something I think when we were reading about Tiger Woods a couple years ago, when we were reading the book by Hank Haney,
yes.
Right? And how Tiger said that he didn't like Phil because Phil never put in enough work to, had the natural talent, but didn't put in the work to be the best. And I think Phil did that to win the 2021 PGA. And he did that at moments to overcome his inadequacies. And it does beg the question, if Phil had done the work, would he have been better than Tiger and Jack? Yeah,
and maybe in a bigger thought, maybe he spent 80% doing the work, but the other 20% he was just busy trying to recover his image and do everything else in life,
or he was doing 80% of the work, and the other 20% was spent gambling.
It's a real thought. It's like, what would that last 20% have gotten Phil? How many U.S. Opens does Phil have with that last 20% of work right there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I don't know.
At least one.
Yeah, so fascinating read indeed by Alan Shipnuck. Again, we're working to get Alan on the show pretty soon, so hopefully we can put a bow on all that. But a great read. If you haven't picked it up already, it's Phil, the rip-roaring and unauthorized biography of golf's most colorful superstar. Fantastic read, and it was a pleasure to knock out another one in the book club.
All right, let's switch over to Tuned In, where we share what we're tuning into outside of the world of sports. We're getting a little comical with this week's, because you went to Comic-Con.
Oh my
I know
gosh.
That's the wrong maybe adjective to use, comical, but I'm just gonna.
It was funny. It was interesting. It was fascinating, really, more than anything. I felt like I was in an episode of The Big Bang Theory, basically. I am kind of more fluid in the older adult male sports culture, so I haven't interacted with my kid self in a while. So from that perspective, it was absolutely fascinating to see what was on display. Mike, you'll appreciate my haul. Before we get into who I saw, I got myself a Super Mario Land keychain. I'm talking the original Super Nintendo version, like that logo on it. I got an N64 shirt. I got a Stranger Things keychain for a friend. So I was just getting all sorts of fun little random knickknacks from childhood and watching kids search for Funko Pops and Pokemon cards. And it was quite an interesting scene. Lots of different people. If you haven't checked out my Instagram at Course of Life Alex, I posted a great reel that documented the variety of characters there. Let's just say.
Yeah, you kind of ran the gambit from Eric Estrada to football stars.
I did, yes. The day led with Vince Young and Jordan Whittington from UT football. Obviously, the legend who won the national championship for the Longhorns there. It was cool to interact with them. I'm going to post some content from questions I got to ask. And also, how about DJ Qualls in addition to Eric Estrada? DJ Qualls, you'll remember as Kyle, the lovable virgin from Road Trip back in the day.
Right.
Oh, yes, of course. He had many other movies and appearances after that. But after all these years, it was neat to actually interact and meet with him. Hoping to get these guys on the show in future. Let's just say I interacted with them, so we planted the seeds there. But it was cool to see some memories of past and people from movies and television that I loved in real life. So Comic-Con, a neat experience. I got to say, I always overlooked going to something like Comic-Con and thought that was maybe out of my demographic. Very much not so. You would love all the collectible stuff you would have seen.
You know, we've talked about going to some sort of Comic-Con or for us, because we're big into tabletop and board games, going to some sort of board game con.
Yes, yeah.
And just haven't done it yet. We've kind of talked about it. We don't know if we're really going to do it.
Yeah, it's a list. It's just like, $10, $20 admission. Fortunately, the friends at Greater Austin Comic-Con got myself in courtesy of the podcast. So maybe you can grease that wheel too locally where you are and attend a Comic-Con of your own.
And this week as well, this kind of melds perfectly with Comic-Con. I don't know if you ever watched Sailor Moon when you were a kid.
Know it by name, but refresh me.
I can't refresh you much. I'll be honest. It's in here as my tuned in, but it's only because I'm seeing it in the background. Was because the wife is watching the reboot of it. You're
doing the sideline watch, which you've done a few times on the show here.
I have. This is a little different. I'm not really paying too much attention about it. Basically, it's about a bunch of Sailor Moon is, I think, a teenage girl who's a superhero, and I don't. That's about all I know.
Wow.
But
too bad I may have missed some Sailor Moon merchandise at Comic-Con.
It's back. The wife is watching it, and she says she likes it just as much, if not more, than the original, because the original got highly Americanized when they dubbed it and cut out stuff, and so she likes this one a little better now.
There you go. If you want a respectable, cultured person's opinion on a show, I would check out Sailor Moon then, because she probably knows better than us. So,
all right, let's get into this week's guest. As we've said, it's Open Championship week. And it's the 150th Open Championship on top of that. So there's 150 years of golf history and links golf history at St. Andrews. And who better to come on the podcast and talk about this than Dr. Bern, the president of the Golf Heritage Society.
Yeah, good to connect with him again. I last saw him in person in January at the PGA show in Orlando. It was cool to meet with him there. And it's a pleasure to have him back on. We had him in 2021 as well. The Golf Heritage Society, really cool organization that basically preserves all the cool historical fragments, collectibles, and moments in the game of golf. So it's Open Championship week. It's the home course. Let's just nerd out and just dive into the history of one of the coolest venues in the game.
That's right. And we'll get into that conversation in just a moment. But first, let's talk about the official on-course betting app of Course of Life. And that, of course, is D3, $. I'm just rolling in the coins because I'm beating you. I'm having a good time, and I just want more people to play with right now.
Yeah, I agree. We've had some really cool head-to-head matches. What's up next for us is I want to do a match against 10 people that are listening right now. So I want to have 10 people challenge me. That's my goal ahead right now, whether that be a remote match or a local match. If you want to play here in Austin, Texas, be sure to hit us up. Find us on the D3 Golf app and download it today with promo code COL. We can do any sorts of challenges, whether it's skins, Stableford, stroke play format, our handicaps, course rating, and difficulty will all be taken into account thanks to the D3 app. So check out D3 Golf if you want to do a challenge, and we're going to be doing many more, so follow along for our results as well. Next up on the tee, back on the show, our favorite golf historian here to catch up and pontificate on all things golf and what's going on with his Golf Heritage Society. It's Dr. Bern Bernacki joining us on the Course of Life. Bern, how are we doing this evening?
Doing just terrific, Alex. Thanks very much, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We last connected in person at the PGA show, which was a lot of fun. Since then, in January, how has 2022 treated you so far, and how's everything going at GHS?
Well, fantastic, especially when we compare ourselves to 2020 and 21.
Yeah.
GHS is strong. We're rising. We're so excited because we're able to come together and gather in person, face to face. That's where we're the best.
Definitely. Yeah, there's been some really cool content that I've seen, both in person and you guys using technology in a very neat way as well to grow the heritage and history of the game and teach it and allow people to learn more about it on golfheritage.org. One thing that's very neat that I saw you did recently was what's called part of your Grand Zoom series, where you gather people from the golf collectible community. But this time you did something different, which was like a little bit of a show and tell where people could bring things of their own. I'm curious how that went and what some of the highlights were from fans bringing their collectibles.
Well, Alex, it was terrific. It was a little out of the ordinary. The previous ones were interviewing people from the history of the game of golf. Bobby Jones IV and Shirley Spork, co-founder of the LPGA. So this time we turned the corner a little bit and said, let's go back to our roots and let's talk about some collectibles, and let's invite the Golf Heritage Society members to send in some photographs of a collectible, and we'll tell a story about a collectible. And, we probably got about 20 conversations in there with all these different collectibles. It was great fun.
Anything notable that stuck out to you, one specific item?
There were several specific items. One gentleman presented out of his collections of Masters badges. He has every single one from 1937 on. And he showed us one of them that was in great shape. That was a lot of fun. I shared a golf ball. We all lose golf balls, but sometimes we find golf balls. But this was a golf ball that came to me. It was a Wilson Staff golf ball signed by a guy named Arnold Palmer. And Arnold Palmer just didn't like to sign golf balls very much because he liked to make sure his signature was just so perfect. And it was tough to do that on a golf ball.
Yes.
But as a very young player, he met a woman named Opal S. Hill. And no one, not too many people were familiar, but she's a founding member of the LPGA. She's from Nebraska. Well, her grandson happens to be one of my patients, and I've been taking care of him for several years, and he's moving. Well, he brought this golf ball in and showed it to me and told me about Miss Hill having Arnold Palmer sign it. And then he says, "This is for you." And I said, "Oh, no, that's very valuable. I can't have that." And he says, "Nope, the family voted. You're taking good care of me, so we're taking good care of you." How's that for a story?
Wow, what a treasured item from the king! And for anyone who has or needs to look at Arnold Palmer's signature, do it. I implore you. It's one of the more impressive signatures in sports, and it stands the test of time. So that's a really cool one.
Yeah, there were several other collectibles. Each one of them with a story. We don't have a lot of time to tell the stories, but there was a clock from a country club up in upstate New York, and just any number of items, clubs made over there by famous makers, Willie Park, and you name it. And there was different kinds of collectibles. A lot of fun.
That's awesome. Yep. I and a lot of our audience members are definitely obsessed with all things golf course accessories, trinkets, widgets, what have you. That's right up my alley. So especially when it's talking about the history of the game, that's very neat. And there's one that I want to bring up specifically. I was checking out golfheritage.org recently, and there's a lot of cool pieces on collectibles from the past of the game. One interesting item that stuck out to me that I can't say I've ever quite seen in any golf historical reference was a caddy coat hanger. Essentially what this was is a device, I guess, that's stuck into the ground so caddies could correctly hang the coats of their players as they made their way around the course. That was a fantastic and fascinating item that I found on the website recently.
You know what, Alex? You got one on me, my friend. I've never heard of that one, not seen one. So send me a photo sometime.
Yeah, I know. Very unique. So there's a lot of that and more at golfheritage.org to check out. Just in terms of the GHS in general, what I love is obviously you guys have lots of shows and messages and belief and inclusivity for all golfers and all people as the game grows exponentially in recent years. Just talk about what the GHS does just to get out to everybody in and beyond the game of golf.
Sure. Well, I have a passion for protecting young people. There's a lot of bad things happening out there, kids susceptible to drugs and things. And I've been active with the First Tee of Pittsburgh. And one of the fun things that we've done with the First Tee of Pittsburgh and the youth is teach them about history of the game of golf by letting them play with antique golf clubs, the hickory clubs and even the classic clubs. And they absolutely love it. And it leads to conversations about people, places, and things. And the young people then go online and become researchers and that much more informed and enjoy the game a lot of different ways. And that's precisely what we hope for when we have a new member, to help them enjoy the game of golf in 1,000 different ways.
Nice. And the young ones, they can get themselves a membership on the house. Is that right? GHS?
That is exactly right. Age 22 and under, we are delighted to offer a free digital membership where people can see all 52 years of our journal and participate in all of our activities, including the Zoom calls that we do. And it's just a great offer. We think that our $50 annual membership is the best value in the game of golf. And I swear that it is.
Nice. Good stuff. Again, it's Dr. Bern Bernacki joining us on the Course of Life. You remember him as the golf historian, president of the Golf Heritage Society. Convention season, apparently, for you. I don't know how long you guys been doing conventions. You got one coming up in September in Indianapolis. How long has that been going on, and what all goes into putting that together?
Well, Alex, the society is 50 years old. And we've had a lot of fun over the years, exchanging letters and conversations and those kinds of things. But we've been getting together for a lot of years as well. So in Pittsburgh last year was our 50th. And Indianapolis will be our 51st annual gathering. We call it the National Convention now. And there's golf. There's a warm-up golf. Then there's a competitive golf. And
Nice.
We always had a hickory championship with it, and we still will. But now we've added a classics division for those steel shafts, persimmon heads, and forged blades from the Palmer Nicklaus Player era. And
the
guess
glory
what?
days of golf. Love that.
Oh, absolutely. And we're welcoming the folks who are not yet outfitted with these older clubs to come and play their moderns and hang with people right alongside in the same foursome that might be playing a different era, be it hickory or classic clubs. So you learn a little that way, and it's much more inviting, and it stimulates interest.
That's cool. I mean, hey, we're all playing the same course, right? Just different sticks.
Yeah, and as far as our program goes, we always have educational. We've collaborated for several years, probably many years, with the USGA. They usually do a presentation, one of our hour-long presentations. We have several. Last year, we talked about the history of the pitching wedge, and we had several of our own experts and a guy named Bobby Grace, who's a club expert. Bobby Grace and the 5 of the other Golf Heritage Society members talked about the early origins all the way up to the modern in every type of expertise you can imagine. They answered questions. It was really a great symposium. So this year we're shifting gears and we're going to talk about the history of the putter. Should be fascinating, similar kind of thing. So
very cool.
Yeah, absolutely cool. And, there'll be art displays and a broad variety of opportunities for our members to enjoy the convention and learn from it. But mostly, we do these things called room trading, where we're all staying at the same hotel. People bring a lot of their stuff. Well, we're going to have a great big trade show with everything imaginable from the game of golf, a lot of antiquities, the unusual, the collectible, and people like to come and swap and purchase, and the public's welcome to that too. But before we do that, for the couple nights we're there before the trade show, people visit each other's room to see what you got in your room and how you might get a scoop on something that before it hits the trade show floor. So that's room trade.
Yeah. A true collectibles convention indeed for all the relics, antiquities in the game of golf. The club conversation is fascinating to me, Dr. Bern. I guess my earliest wedge memory was not so much the PW or the traditional P or S you see on a wedge these days. I remember my dad giving me a hand-me-down 11 iron, which was basically the equivalent of a sand wedge. And believe it or not, kids, they used to take irons and go above the number 9 way back in the day.
Very true. My original set was 5 different helter-skelter clubs, 2 hickories, one with a little bow in it, my Mashie 5-iron. But as you say, Alex, my wedge was a Pyratone wedge. What that means is that the shaft was metal, but it was covered in a plastic made to look like wood. And I didn't know the difference, so I sort of thought it was a wood club, but it had that great big loft like your club. Mine did too, and it was great fun to play those 5 clubs. And only when Uncle Harry got a new set and gave me his Croydon irons was I a real golfer with a matched set.
So cool. I love that memory indeed. Yeah, you can kind of have all those conversations and relive those ancient pieces of the game and everything that brought the history to where it is. Again, it's the GHS convention in Indianapolis. That's September 21st, 24th. It's very cool to see that you guys have also done a lot to honor the legacy of Arnold Palmer. We've talked about him at length when you and I have had conversations, and we mentioned him already in this conversation, but just kind of give everyone an idea who doesn't understand Arnold Palmer's legacy, specifically maybe what he means to the history of the game and where you are in Pennsylvania as well, too.
Well, I'm about 50 miles from Latrobe in the city of Pittsburgh, and our first tee new building is named the Arnold Palmer Learning Center in honor of Mr. Palmer, with his personal blessing of that and that of the family and the foundation. And in the lobby there, we have a tribute to Mr. Arnold Palmer, nicknamed the King. And he's considered the King because he was a real important historical figure in the game. He was there when television first started. He was charismatic. He went for broke. He was a strong player, and he was beloved. He had what was called Arnie's Army. Well, his success was in the game of golf: 7 majors, a couple of Masters, the U.S. Open. This is just great history. But in addition to that, he was a very creative, innovative entrepreneur, both within the game of golf and elsewhere. Arnold Palmer held and still holds a around the world aviation record for travel around the world. And he was an avid pilot. He was the first to go from place to place for the tournaments in a plane, flying it himself. And his community spirit was just second to none. Fundraising, charitable events. So Mr. Palmer was distinguished as an athlete, as a businessman, as a community servant, and as an ambassador for the game of golf.
Very awesome indeed. Could talk about Arnie all day and night, but you answered my follow-up earlier about your coolest Arnie piece of memorabilia. You got it gifted to you. So credit to you for that awesome patient that gifted you that neat ball as well.
Lucky me that day, that's for sure.
Yeah. Dr. Bern Bernacki, let's get to some quick shots as we wrap up here on the Course of Life. Again, it's Golf Heritage Society on Instagram if you want to check out GHS, or golfheritage.org. Let's get to another historical site, which is all the talk right now because it is Open Championship season, and it's a special one. It's not just any Open Championship. It's at St. Andrews, the home of golf. What are you most excited to watch and take in as we get another Open at the historic venue?
Well, the whole ambiance, the whole history, it's just, you get tingles when you think about it. And if you've had the opportunity to be in Scotland and get to play at the R&A and be inside and tour it, that's just incredible. I can tell you that our society members get a special treat next week, July 6th. We're going to have one of the world's experts on St. Andrews, Roger McStravick, author of 2 books, both recognized as the Book of the Year by the USGA. And Roger's going to be on one of our Zoom calls next week and tell us insider stuff about St. Andrews itself, the golf course, the Open. So we're just excited for our members to have that special opportunity. And maybe we'll come back and share some of those things. But personally, I want to see how many of those guys drive greens and how many of them get into some of those very nasty bunkers and how the heck they're going to get out. Because once you're in those pot bunkers, you're in big trouble.
Yeah, indeed. It's amazing to see how the old course has stood the test of time. I think it's done it pretty well. I mean, obviously we're seeing lower scores than we did back in the day, but I guess just kind of gives people some perspective, since you know a lot about the origins and maybe how the course was played with the oldest equipment. Explain kind of how differently golf is being played at St. Andrews in 2022 versus the way it was 100, 200, or 300 or beyond years ago.
That's a great question. When we look at those very old paintings and even some of the old photographs, you see these very formal looking folks, some of them wearing red jackets in the manner of their club. And they have caddies, people carrying their clubs. And, what you don't know about is the condition of the ground. Way back when, some of these places, the regular golf courses, they were sort of like fields, and they would just play over the fields. And, there were, after a rain, a wagon would go by and your ball would get in a rut. And, a club was developed called a wagon rut iron to loft a ball out of the wagon wheel rut.
Very practical, yes.
Now, that's going way back. So, our good friends, the golf course superintendents, have become more and more scientific and given us absolutely wonderful surfaces to play on and hit off of and putt on. So over the years, the science and the grooming and the attention to the detail has really made it a more pleasurable experience, but also a more beautiful experience and a fun experience.
Very cool. I'm excited just thinking about it, talking about it. Open Championship season, indeed, at St. Andrews. Always a fun time on the golf calendar. I'm going to flip a classic question that I love asking, which is our 19th hole question, but I want to frame it around a building specifically. Maybe if you can think in all your travels, if there's a uniquely beautiful or amazing clubhouse that you've been to in your day, whether it's at a historical track or a place you've been to most recently. What's a notable clubhouse that stands out to you in the game?
I'm going to split myself in half, and I'm going to say, the old course at St. Andrews is incomparable. I've had the absolute pleasure to be taken on a tour by their club historian, Mr. Peter Crabtree, who's been a member of the Golf Heritage Society for many years.
Nice.
And the paintings that they have and the discussion about the locker room, it's just a fascinating walk through time in the game of golf. And the other half of me says the Arnold Palmer Learning Center, the old golf course, 100-year-old golf course in Shenley Park in Pittsburgh, that has this wonderful new facility that can give us year-round opportunity for our young people to play indoors when the weather is bad outdoors. So those would be my two favorite buildings in the game of golf.
Love it. Great stuff. Thanks again, Dr. Bern, for joining us. Appreciate all the talk on the history of the game, and looking forward to seeing more history be made and following everything that goes on at GHS.
Alex, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure. Bye-bye.
And we're back. Great to hear from Dr. Bern there. I love his input there on just how different the vibe is across the pond at the Open Championship.
Yeah, it is. And maybe down even to the fans too, just kind of a little bit more of a cultured, respectable fan base there that understands a great or a decent or a bad golf shot. And I love the drama surrounding anyone who goes into a bunker all week. That's my favorite drama to watch. I appreciate any bunker moment. I love the bunker cams. I love the way the bunkers are raked on like the exterior lip, how they do that side to side like mow pattern to create that little cross pattern. It's absolutely fascinating. So yes, I'm a big fan of Carnage Golf, but I love all those little features when it comes to St. Andrews.
And if you like that conversation with Dr. Bern, plus everything else we do here on this podcast, go ahead and punch that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up or a heart or any other kind of a like emoji you find appropriate. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter, COL Podcast on Instagram, Course of Life Alex on Instagram. I'm at MWRINC on Instagram and Twitter. And Alex is Course of Life 1.
Nailed it.
Twitter. Let's talk a little bit of baseball, because I was hoping I could say the Yankees have the brooms out this weekend playing the Red Sox. But after coming, we're recording this a little early on a Sunday evening. And on Saturday, I was really looking good because I looked at the Yankee score when I was going to bed, and they just put 2 up in the top of the 10th. And I was like, yep, it's over. Yankees are going to win. Your freaking Red Sox had to ruin it, man. You guys, you're 15 games back of the Yankees still. So I don't know why
honestly,
you're
hand up, I didn't know that until a couple weeks ago. I thought we were still like within arm's length in like the 10-game mark in the division. And then I took a look up at what happened last week after the atrocity in Tampa Bay for the Red Sox and realized it is 15. So yeah, I don't know if the AL East is in play at this point. I usually am not down on my doldrums this early in the season, but we're really focused on that wild card spot. Let's just say that.
Yeah. And I just want to say, this is crazy to me. The Yankees are going to go into the All-Star break with over 60 wins, probably close to 70 wins.
That's that Mariners pace. That was that 98, 116 wins or something like that.
Something like that.
That's stuff.
They're playing, their win percentage is 718 right now. I mean, this is crazy.
Yeah, so you know what that means? That means since they're so dominant, Mike, it would be even more of a shame if they blew this and collapsed. That's what nobody wants to see, especially with this amazing start. So
I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to jinx it. But
you better not.
I just want to say right now at this moment, we're recording on July 10th. The Yankees are hands down the best team in baseball.
There. Shout out to that.
Let's hashtag AlwaysEndWithFood.
Yep. Time to ditch this traditional sports and energy drinks. Save time, money, stay dialed in through 18 holes with Swing Strong. This is our favorite hydration on the course. I love adding it to water. It's packed with electrolytes, vitamins, amino acids, a touch of caffeine, and each stick pack delivers everything your body needs to sustain peak performance throughout a round of golf. They're light and small. Add them to water, fit conveniently in your bag. Check out GetSwingStrong.com. Speaking of that, I had an awesome 19th hole visit this past weekend. I don't know if you saw on Instagram, but I got to go to a wonderful golf course in Austin here, local muni, and Fairways Cantina with some very aptly named golf-themed items. It was margaritas. You'll appreciate this. The margarita with the extra shot of tequila is called the Jimenez. Shout out to Miguel Angel Jimenez. We got the Happy Gilmore taco, the Fairway Foursome quesadilla. They got frozen John Daly's. What's not to love? So that was my fun 19th hole visit this past week.
Yeah, for me this week, we were at the farmer's market on Saturday, and we saw shishito peppers. I don't know if you've ever had shishito peppers.
I named this in the intro, and I think I've eaten shishito peppers, but I wouldn't know them if they walked across the street from me.
They're not very big. They're small. They're about a finger length long. They're slender. They're typically green. And they
what do they go in? What do they go with?
They're typically an Asian, served with some sort of Asian dishes, or you see them more in Asian cuisine, Japanese cuisine. They're most often are going to be just like blistered, real hot, heat real fast, just to kind of blister the outside of the skin. They're pretty thin walled, so they blister really easily. And so that's what I did with them. I actually made it tonight for dinner. So we had chicken with shishito peppers with it was actually a lemon and garlic pan sauce that it was finished in. It was fantastic. fantastic.
Nice.
And they're
Well,
not
worth
they're
a
not too
retry,
hot.
maybe?
They're mild, so it was really good.
Okay, nice. Good stuff. By the way, bonus AEWF right here before we sign off. Annoying drive-through pet peeve. I want to see if you've encountered this. You order food at the drive-through, and then you pull around, you pay your money, and then you don't get your order. They tell you just to pull up a little bit, like past the drive-through window, and they're going to walk your order out to you. Have you had that happen to you?
I have not had it happen in a while, but the last time I had it happen was at a McDonald's.
Yep.
And I ordered just 2 McDoubles.
Yeah.
And I'd already been waiting in the line for like 15 minutes because they're so freaking slow here in Savannah. And they told me to pull up, and I literally went, how much longer is it going to be? I've already been waiting 15 minutes.
Okay, so this pull-up move, people need to be abreast to this, and we need to fight back against the system, okay? I went to a fast food restaurant establishment here in my area at 2:45 in the afternoon. I was the only person in the entire drive-through line. Order my food flawlessly, pay. He gives me my soda and then tells me to pull up. There's nobody behind me. It's a completely empty drive-through, and there's no customers at all. So I pull up, I wait there. Then the person behind me comes. They have to pull up too. So they pull up past me. A third person comes. He says the same thing to the third person and has them pull up. What they're doing is they're rigging their system. As soon as a customer pulls through to the drive-through lane, a timer goes off. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to rig their numbers and have their time spent per customer as low as possible. So what they do is they usher you forward and make it look like you're only in the drive-through spot accepting your food for 30 seconds when you're really there for 5 to 10 minutes. So if you want to fight back the system, you just say no. And we're going to have to fight this back one person at a time.
That said, if you ordered a massive order and they ask you to pull forward because they still got to, get all the other 10 things in your order together, just do it.
That's fine. I'll allow that. And listen, my main beef is that I went at 2:45 in the afternoon. There was nobody behind me. That's the real issue I had here. That's how I knew they were clearly gaming the system. It was like, there's no purpose for me to pull forward in this moment. They're just doing it for their own good. So watch out there, peeps. And if you encounter this in your next fast food situation, now you know. That's a wrap on this week's Course of Life. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you all next week.